Okay, here we go. We're yeah, we're live. Okay, good. So this is the first TKG-Windows demo, and so integrating YTT with our providers. We really should be calling this integrating it away from our providers, but the idea is there's existing providers. vSphere and Windows was a prototypical one that we made to keep our YTT plan separate. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new variable which tells us whether something is a Windows plan or not, and so that's here. So I can do cat. I can make a new file, right? And this file will specify this cluster plan. And then inside of the YTT for the new Windows overlay, right? If I get out of here, you can see we have an overlay for Windows, and we also have another overlay that's just a regular overlay, which is the original Linux. So this one is for Linux, right? We check that it's not Windows, and if so, all this YTT at the bottom is applied. Otherwise, these YTTs, these YTTs function orthogonal to one another. And so if we look in here and we actually look at the layout of our new infrastructure vSphere directory, we'll see that we actually now have a cluster template dev plan for Windows, right? So that corresponds to this here, okay? So then, if I want to make one of these clusters, right, I can Tanzu cluster create it. Just do Tanzu cluster create. And my plan is the Windows developer plan, which I just showed you. And so I can do a dry run of that just to make sure that it works first. And if that runs, we'll also look at the config TKG tanzu.tkg so we can see it worked. The dry run worked, and we're able to make our YTT for these. Now, if we look at the old infrastructure vSphere Windows provider, right? We look at that, we'll see that the old one had a dev plan and a prod plan, but these were separately namespaced under this infrastructure vSphere Windows provider. So these plans were totally not integrated with their core plans. And now we have a dev plan just that's sort of integrated with the other vSphere plans. So anyways, yeah, so we could see here that this, when we create this dev plan, it makes all the Windows resources that we're familiar with. We can go up here and we can see that, looks like we've missed, we can't scroll all the way up, but it's okay because I've saved this and I can show it to you in a second. So let's actually make this cluster though. So we can go and make it. So there we go. So that'll start making it, and then while that's running, we can look at these dev plans. So if I go in here and I do Perry old.sh or Perry1.sh, we can see the original dev plan. And if I do vim Perry2.sh, we can see the new dev plans. And you can see the new dev plans are mostly the same. There's some metadata that's different, right? But otherwise, these plans are like mostly the same. And the important part really for us is, what do we have for example, for the machine? What do we have for like the machine templates? So we could see here, we have the same vSphere machine templates. We have the old control plane made this one, and it also made the Windows containerd. So it had the control plane node and it had the containerd node, right? Those are the two vSphere machine templates. And the new one does the same thing. It has a containerd node and it has a control plane node, right? So it's making the same stuff. And we can also see that these files are essentially the exact same. And we can see we still have all our fancy Ampria installation stuff in both of them. They're the same. And if we actually scroll to the bottom, I think we do GG to do that, right? Or GG? Yeah. My Vim is awesome. I'm so good at Vim. So we could see at the bottom, each of these are the same, 4042 and 4045. They're the dry run output of this is the exact same for whether you're doing the old cluster infrastructure Windows vSphere plan versus the new one. So we're making the same thing. It's just that we've moved the templates and put some different logic around how they're processed. The way they're processed, again, while this runs, let's make sure it is running. So we can see it is running. The Windows control plane is now coming up. And well, while this runs, we can test, and while that runs, we can look at the logic here. So the dev Windows plan then will go and it will try to run this overlay. But as I showed you earlier, it will look in that overlay and it will see infrastructure vSphere Windows. It will look in there and it will see that cluster template definition dev Windows. It will, oops, wrong one. It will look in there and it will YTT overlay Windows. So it will look in there and it will see, again, it will see this data value.windows was set to true. And then once it sees that that was true, it will run this YTT substitution instead of that one, right? And it will first run the base template.yaml, obviously, as the basis for the cluster. And that's the same for both Windows, regardless of whether you're doing Windows or Linux, the base template is going to be the same. And so, yeah, that's it. So then, as you can see, this came up, and now we can see this is going to come online. It's cloning the virtual machine down here. And we can sort of look in here and maybe poke around and try to confirm that it's going to come up properly. Yeah, we can see the Linux one came up, and now we can see this is coming up. So yeah, we did the dry run, and now one thing while that runs, I'll show you, is that this is the main issue we're working on. But one of the things I found along the way that I really like it, and I found an issue for this, is that I'd like to make the YTT processor run outside of Tanzu Client because there's no reason for it to be stuck in Tanzu Client. And you can actually generate these cluster templates by just catting the original base template and then running YTT transformations against them, right? And then all you need in order to do that is one BOM file that has all the information in it, and then a config file that has all this information in it. I made two files. You could put this all in the same YAML file though. But it's important to remember that all this is just YTT, and you can generate these cluster API objects with raw YTT without having Tanzu Client at all. So I've written a little instructions on how to do that, and I filed an issue about how we should move these plans completely outside of Tanzu at some point. And I think there are a few folks that agree with me. Here's some people from the UX team and so on and so forth. And Vui agrees as well. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. And then let's go see here. So as we can see, the Windows node is coming up. And there it is. So that's my demo. Thank you very much. TKG Windows for life.